Hello. It is Sunday. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Didn't do much today. I read a lot and I wanted to update you guys on a story that I started maybe a week ago, not even. It has 6,362 words right now. I'm very proud of my ability to write, I guess. I don't know if it's any good at all. I haven't really read it through with a very critical eye. Normally, I handwrite and then I will type from a handwritten thing. Because it allows me to practice my penmanship in the summer, which can get pretty rough, and then I come back to school and have to write like 30,000 words per day, depending on how many notes I take in a given class. Probably guessing that 30,000 is a little bit of an overestimate, but you never know. And so it can tend to hurt my hand when I'm getting back into school, so I like to handwrite things. It also gives me a chance to edit while I type from paper to Word doc, but this one I just started typing on my Word doc. So this is a story where I'm having a character speak French, so it's also giving me a chance to practice my French, which is not, it's not rusty, because it's been like 6 months since I've had to, well, not 6 months, it's been 2 months since I've had to speak French. It feels like 6 months, just because I haven't been in class. But I'm enjoying writing in French. It's giving me a chance to practice that, and keep up with that skill, which I'm probably gonna lose it. Definitely the ability to speak French. I mean, let's see if I can find a good line. I don't really have a good line to read in French, but my ability to speak French is probably significantly impaired. I don't really know. I haven't really practiced it. I was telling my boss at the post office that, you know, I want to keep up with my French, and she told me I should find a French pen pal. And I said, well, that's not the point. I want to speak, because reading French is fine for me. I've always been able to read it just fine. It's like oral exams with listening and speaking that I tend to do pretty poorly. Not poorly, just not as good. Just because I'm not great at speaking a different language. Languages have never been my strong suit. My sister is very good at Spanish, and I'm very jealous. She started her Spanish education when she was in kindergarten, and then I think 2nd grade is when she picked it back up, because I think they changed teachers or something. So like when I was in kindergarten, we didn't learn Spanish, and then there was an initiative, a push to start speaking Spanish, start teaching Spanish when the kids were 5 or 6. So they started teaching them Spanish, you know, then in kindergarten, and I was in 2nd grade, and they figured, you know, just wait until, you know, you can learn it in 4th grade, which is the standard for starting Spanish at our school, I guess. And so I didn't start until 4th grade. And at that point, it's too late. You can't really start a language at 11. It's just, I mean, you can. There are definitely people who can do it, but my brain is just not really, like, I don't just want to say wired, because that's not right. You can always push yourself to do stuff. I mean, I got A's in every French class I took, but that doesn't mean I'm proficient in French. So I took Spanish from 4th to 8th grade, and then in 9th grade, I thought, ooh, I want to be a veterinarian. I will take Latin, and that will help me with the SAT vocab, and it will help me know the root words for certain medicines and biological terms and all that stuff. It was a waste of 3 years of a language. I don't remember a single word in Latin. Not that I didn't try in that class. I tried very hard, and I did well in the class. I just don't remember any of it. I think I remember the word lupa, which means wolf. and silva, which means forest. So there you go. That's my Latin knowledge. Oh, and I also remember the word puer, which means boy, and puella, which means girl, because of a very funny situation where a friend of mine, we were in a Latin class, and our Latin instructor asked her, you know, it was like our third year of Latin, and puer and puella are like pretty common words. You learn them when you're first starting. And so my friend was sitting there and not really paying attention. And so our Latin teacher went to call her out and was like, I bet you don't even know the word for boy. What's the word for boy? And her immediate reaction was she remembered the word for girl, which is puella, and using Spanish knowledge, she was like, it must be puello. So she stood there and said puello for like, he like babbled back and forth. He was like, puella means girl, and she was like, no, puello. And he was like, puella means girl, and she was like, no, puello. And so they got into a very heated debate about that. So I'll never forget those two words. But that's the extent of my Latin knowledge. And then when I got to college, we have a language requirement. So I had to pick up a language, and I figured I don't know enough Spanish to do Spanish, and I don't really want to do Spanish. I just didn't have a desire to learn Spanish, which, you know, if I had learned it in elementary school earlier and high school, if I had taken it in high school like a smart person, maybe I would have been interested, but I just wasn't. So I was like, I'm going to pick up a completely different language. So I picked up French, and I took French for 3 semesters, and now I'm done with my language requirement, but I'm still interested in keeping up with it a little bit because it's just a kind of useful skill. I mean, I don't know too many people who speak French, but my best friend is bilingual French and English because her family is from France and she went to a French school in New York, so she's bilingual and she speaks French. So I thought maybe I'll be able to talk to her, but my French is too poor that I would never want to subject her to that. So rather than doing that, I just write characters who speak in French, and I pretend that they can speak French a lot better than I can. Because, of course they would speak French. If they're native French speakers and I'm writing it down, like, I can write it. Writing it is fine. Reading it, also fine. I can read French and understand most of what's going on, but speaking it and listening to it is especially difficult for me because I have this kind of struggle that I wouldn't categorize. I have no other better term for it than auditory dyslexia, but it's not really a huge issue because past like the 6th grade, nobody is asking you to spell things out loud. But I have issues with some letters when I hear them and they go through my ear canal to my brain mixes them up. So if you were to say G, I might write down J, or if you were to say J, I might write down G. And if you were to say M, I might get it confused with N, that kind of thing, which is weird. And luckily doesn't plague me in my everyday life. But sometimes when I ask people to spell things, it gets a little bit confusing for me. But then French is even worse, the auditory dyslexia part, because some of the French vowels are said differently in French than in English. So E, like the English letter E, the Arabic letter E, whatever, is pronounced E in French, and it's pronounced E in English. Then the French letter I, pronounced E, because of course it is. And so early on in my French journey, we were, taking the auditory part of the exam, and my French professor was like saying the letters, and I was writing them down. And the other ones I get confused are like G and J and H. They're just like, I can't remember exactly how you say them, but they're also like 3 that sound kind of similar. And so my brain gets them confused. And so he was like, you did super well on the rest of the test, but like this part, I don't know what you were doing. And I was like, I get them confused in English, so I'm not even mad at myself. Like, this is bound to happen. I get them confused even in English, because also, so there's which means E, and then there's U, which means you. So like U, E, like all of those are confusing. It's confusing for me. So yeah, French struggles, am I right? But my story is 6,000 words, so that's the true victory. Some of those words are French, and I probably cannot pronounce them. But they are there. I do like to practice French when no one is watching. It probably sounds really bad. But yeah, so that's all I've got for you guys today. Those are some of my French language struggles. Je vais voir toi dans le dernier video. I'll see you in the next video. That was probably really bad, and I'm sorry I had to subject you to that. So, bye guys. See you tomorrow.